Hello and welcome to the WARC podcast. My name's David Tiltman, and today we are joined by someone who needs, little introduction to WARC listeners. It's Professor Byron Sharp of the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute. Now, in the world of marketing effectiveness, there's a few seminal texts that marketers reach for again and again. One of those is How Brands Grow by Byron Sharp, a book that builds on empirical data to outline a series of laws that, you guessed it, explain how brands grow. If you've heard of double jeopardy, mental and physical availability, or the NBD-Dirichlet model, you're already familiar with some of the ideas in How Brands Grow and how they've shaped decision-making at major firms in the 16 years since it was published. Today, Byron, whose official title is Professor of Marketing Science at Adelaide University and Director of the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute for Marketing Science, joins us to describe the foundational ideas at the heart of how brands grow and, importantly, how they apply in a fast-changing industry. Now, this is a video podcast, so you can see us as well as hear us on the WARC YouTube channel.
The industry is full of opinions, but brands don't make decisions based on opinions. They make them based on evidence they can trust. Partner with the leading industry authority on marketing effectiveness to make your case. Lions Advisory brings together decades of trusted expertise from WARC, Cannes Lions, Effie, and Contagious to create industry-defining thought leadership. From crafting the narrative to amplifying it at scale and placing it in front of key decision makers. So your story doesn't just add to the conversation, it defines it. Learn more at lions.co/thought leadership.
Byron Sharp, welcome to the WARC podcast.
Oh, thank you very much. It's great fun to be here.
Now, we're talking to you, we say 24 hours since you were on stage on the Debussy with Mark Ritson.
Yeah, I remember him.
You remember him, yeah. Were you happy with how it went?
Yeah, it was good fun. I think both Mark and I enjoyed myself, and the audience seemed to really enjoy themselves. So, you never know as a creative concept.
Yeah.
Will us agreeing with each other just be a boring love fest, or will it be a little bit unpredictable, and will people learn things?
I think there was enough spice in there to keep people interested. How easy was it to find 5 things you actually agreed on?
Oh, really easy. Yeah. I mean, no, because I sort of challenge people when they say, "Oh, you and Ritson disagree," and I'm like, "Well, he might have used to disagree on a number of things, but can you tell me what he actually disagrees with us on today?" And I think the only thing which I think I raised in the thing, I think Mark would hope that he'd admit it's mental and physical availability are the theory works. That is the biggest. Those are the biggest drivers of a brand, which is a change to the mental availability is a change to not what the brand evokes, but what evokes the brand.
That's a great quote, by the way. I really like that. Let's just repeat that. It's not what the brand evokes.
It's what evokes the brand. Yeah, which I didn't come up with. I don't even think Jenny would say that really came from someone else. But it was a major shift in thinking. But I think Mark would like to go, because he's taught positioning for, all his life, that there be, something in brand image. And we're open to that. We're researching that. We know it won't be big, but maybe in some cases that it might be, and we'll see.
That's a great trail for a question I want to ask you as we go through this podcast. But I guess what I'd love to do, I reread How Brands Grow last week too, so I couldn't be accused of not reading it.
Yeah, good.
But what struck me rereading it is that it is a sort of fully formed body of work. It's not like you sort of put some ideas out in that book that now you've sort of moved on. Right.
Yeah. It wasn't a hypothesis. Most books have one, that's why they can usually be summarized to one sort of thing. And I actually don't like summaries of How Brands Grow because it
misses out a lot of stuff.
Yeah. Probably the advertising chapter is exceptionally misunderstood, or just
we'll come on to that.
Too weird for people to understand. Sorry, most scientific are quite weird, first of all. Yeah, it is. That well, because it drew on the Ehrenberg's law of biofrequency, that all brands face a negative binomial distribution in terms of the rates of buying of their customers from heavies, mediums, lights. That was discovered in the late 50s. Was a big surprise, and it took ages to work out what on earth that
And that's
meant.
the kind of like banana thing, yeah? Like the
except it isn't always shaped like that. But as a general thing, in a particular time, it tends to look like that, but it doesn't always. That's why it is important to actually know that it is for the geeks out there, it is important to know that it is a negative binomial distribution,
right,
not just a skewed distribution where most are light.
And probably the most important question in this particular thing is, how on earth do you pronounce, is it Dirichlet or what's the actual pronunciation?
The common way is Dirichlet, which is the French way. Some people say that's wrong because I think the statistician was actually German, so it should be Dirichlet, but let's...
Okay, but it's a soft CH.
Dirichlet.
I'm going to remember that.
Yeah.
I'm going to remember that. Now, look, you mentioned Andrew Ehrenberg. It was the centenary of his birth in May this year. And I guess what I'd love to just get your thoughts on is that sort of through line from his thinking, because you worked with him earlier in your career, and then how that sort of influenced your thinking through to the release of How Brands Grow, and what layer you put on it, and others within maybe around you, that sort of took what was a sort of very statistician's view of the world and tried to sort of turn it into something that actual brand managers could use.
Right. Okay. Well, yeah. Yes, Andrew was a statistician. He brought a unique lens to looking at consumer panel data. He ran a consultancy before he joined London Business School that was called Ask Research. And they would take panel data that had been developed and Nielsen or something were running. No, it wasn't. It was before that. But, but people would get this and go, oh, what does this mean? And so Andrew would use data reduction and discovered patterns in it and gave it meaning. So he was doing old-fashioned, really classic science. Even though I didn't have a science background, had a great sort of affinity, love for that. And I was sort of from the Philip Kotler, this here at Cannes, there'll be this very popular view that advertising can somehow imbue brands with some sort of magic, special added values, which sounds lovely, although it's a bit pernicious. I mean, it sort of suggests that advertising can manipulate people to buy things or pay more for things than they should. And economists certainly accuse marketing people of that.
It was an accusation in the Hidden Persuaders.
Yes, exactly, yes. And then you had Philip. I was a fan, I was a young undergraduate. I had this Philip Kotler textbook, and it said, well, actually, people's garages aren't full of cars that they don't drive and fridges that they don't use, and people aren't that stupid. There's a lovely David Ogilvy quote, isn't there? Like, the consumer isn't stupid, she's your wife. Yeah.
And tells so many stories.
Yeah. So that... I was of that school, and so I was very suspicious about this these added values thing, and I thought what people were really underestimating was the importance of brand awareness. And with Emma MacDonald, who's now a research professor at Strathclyde, I think, so this goes back a long way. We did some experiments and things, and we looked. We did some surveys of managers of like what did they think of brand awareness, ad awareness, and the results are bit shocking, like few had they didn't really even understand the difference between them, and it really wasn't paid much attention. And I thought part of the problem with this is there's this huge emphasis on attitude, like convincing people that we are better, etc. And of course, that when I met Andrew, that sort of perspective, it fit with...
Turn on its head.
It fit with the data of how people are buying and things.
Oh, I see.
That potentially awareness and things is massively more important.
Yeah.
And so that I think the first thing I talked about was sort of something about breadth and depth of awareness. And that started us thinking about that awareness isn't just a simple yes/no. That it's sort of probabilistic. And yeah, of course, everyone knows Coca-Cola. And if you say, yeah, but do they think of Coca-Cola when they're in a coffee shop?
They're thirsty and they will,
Well, the coffee shop's a great example because their Coke just has such low mental availability.
Yeah.
And you're like, really? Coke? Low? Yeah, well, it does. And so that highlighted the concept. And that fits with the biobehavior empirical data that Andrew had. And so we were just sort of kindred spirits, I think. And Andrew sort of reflected. He'd read some of his old. He at one point went, "I've read some of my old articles, and they're so researchy."
Right. So he could see the problems.
We're not telling people what this means, and we haven't sorted out. And he said, always the D is so much harder. And I think that. I mean, we made new discoveries and things like that, but really, the work over the last 20 years in working out what things mean, and also how to say them to people.
Yeah.
Sometimes I'm embarrassed when I look back and go, "Oh God, it took us so long to realize that." Like if we say, continuity, people just don't get it. They don't understand. What does continuity for advertising mean? Does that, there is a better way of saying that.
Do you ever reread something like How Brands Grow and think, I wish we'd explain that differently? Or?
Oh, yeah.
What sort of thing?
Yeah. So I have to tell a funny story now because Andrew once said, Byron, we need to talk about my problem. I'm like, okay, Andrew, what's the problem? And it's the fact he would revise and revise and revise. And I went, well, Andrew, people think your writing is actually quite good. It's because, you're not a native English speaker and you're aware of that you do all this revision. I think it's good. And I said, I was on the plane the other day and I was looking through an article that I'd published in a journal and I had my pen out and I was changing things. And he went, oh no, that's weird. It's already published. Like,
once it's published.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah.
But so communication is difficult, right? We've got a whole festival here, which basically is, you could say, the really core of is that communication is really quite difficult, and it's difficult for scientists and things as well. So, what
still surprises marketers when you present the sort of basics? Because, as you say, it is quite a head flip when you first sort of encounter the theory and the data.
Yes, we don't get the outright shock that we used to.
Yeah, well, that's good. That's progress.
Yes, it is. But we've still got a long way to go. I was, I won't name the company, but I was at a large US consumer goods company, and I was introduced to the new CMO. And a couple of days before, he's new, and so his staff had briefed him on there's this book, and there are these laws in marketing. Mm-hmm. He thought these were pretty interesting, and I thought, how did you get this job? Seriously? You got this job and you didn't know about these things? Wow. That won't happen in 20 years' time.
No.
I think it's probably fair to say that the United States is behind, but it will change.
Because I know Mark's written about that as well, about how he thinks US marketing's kind of sort of fallen behind. Do you feel that too?
Multinational CMOs will often tell me it's harder to get change in the US than it is in other places.
Interesting.
Less receptive. I think there's a bit of an attitude. It's now an old country.
Yeah.
With old universities.
250 years old, yes, this year.
Well, with old universities. And there's a feeling of, there's a bit of a feeling that, like, Americans invented marketing, so how could they learn from anywhere else in the world?
From Australia or Europe or let alone Asia.
Yes. And they'd expect to see it coming from an Ivy League business school. It's like we've got the best business schools in the world, so that there's a bit of that view, I think.
Right.
I met a friend. Where was it? I think it was in London, Grand City, and he admitted, it's Grand City, but he went, but in New York, capital of the world. And I went, I live in the Asia time zone. New York's on the other side of the planet, and we've got like 3 billion people. I don't think we see New York as the capital of the world.
No, that is, yeah. But that's still very common. That's still a very common mindset. Well, we have business in Asia, and we are told that repeatedly, not just by people in like clients in Asia, but our own team will tell us we're being too London centric or New York centric. So keeps us on our toes.
Good.
No, look. As I said, the book is full of is it 11 laws?
I think so, 11 or 12.
11 or 12. There's a lot of laws. And what I don't want to do is
there are more.
You've got even more since. Is there a law that you think's particularly neglected or overlooked?
There's one that's quite. It's got a simple. I mean, I used a funny title for it, which is the my mum theory, or the I love my mum, which is when you look at image data of how users of one brand see their brand, and you compare it to how users of another brand see their brand, it is so similar, right? Yeah. And so I said, I said, my mum, I love my mum. She's the best mum in the world, but she can be really annoying sometimes. Is that like your mum? and
no comment, mum.
I don't think people realize what we're saying there. We're saying that in brand image data, in attitudinal data, you get the same double jeopardy type patterns. Yeah. And when you account for size, when you account for the familiarity or knowledge or usage, then the brands start to look like
very
astonishingly similar. And you're talking about very, very fine differences, which can be worth looking at. Is our brand slightly positioned on, I don't know, faster, like I know for a fast food brand or something like that. But it's a small story. The big story is, wow.
Yeah.
We're all seeing sort of the same. And if you want a brand image score to go up in your brand tracking, basically you need to grow your brand.
So and that's about the direction of causation.
Yeah, it strongly suggests, of course, that attitudes and perceptions are powerfully driven by behavior.
Yes. So behavior comes before attitude rather than the other way around, or can do.
There has to be, I think there is a university textbook we put out, there has to be two-way causality.
Yeah.
There are some times when we say, I hate that.
Yeah.
And we do mean it. In the textbook, I use a quote from the first George Bush as president. He said, I hate broccoli. And now that I'm the president of the most powerful country in the world, I should be able to not eat broccoli. That was expressing a pretty strong attitude. And you would think it affected his behavior. Although actually he got in trouble with American broccoli farmers. So
had to start eating it again.
Maybe.
Good news, decades of benchmarking, insights and best-in-class case studies are now available at the push of a button. Lions Intelligence is the new operating system for creative marketing excellence. With state-of-the-art AI technology and established marketing insights from the WARC, Contagious IQ and WARC, all in a single adaptive workspace that evolves with your thinking. Save hours of manual work and share your thinking with clarity and confidence. Lions Intelligence is where groundwork becomes great work. Insight, strategy, creativity, execution, all in one place. To learn more, check out intelligence.lions.co.
I'd just like to talk a little bit about the challenges in the current market, because we've been talking to a lot of clients here, agencies. The market is in a sort of funny place at the moment, and even if you strip out AI and the rest of it, we've got low growth in lots of categories and markets, lots of pressure on budgets. We know from people like Gartner that marketing budgets as a percentage of revenue have never been lower. And there's
you mean advertising budget?
No, overall marketing budget. We've seen advertising. So within the Gartner definition, it's marketing. So that would include ad tech, pay media, actual people costs, those sorts of things. And we've seen in our own data that advertising budgets are heavily under pressure as an extension of that. I'm interested in the Institute's recommendations in this sort of market where it's difficult to grow at all within many of these categories. Clearly, there are still some categories that are growing a lot, but there are categories that aren't growing. What's the sort of recommendation there in terms of maintaining advertising spend, how you plot your way through a downturn if we think it's a temporary downturn? I mean, give me a few sort of, highlights of the research you've done in this sort of space.
Well, you've got to be good at marketing.
Well, that would be
and so you have to be evidence based. I mean, if you think times are tough, well then you have to get fitter. So the perennial ongoing battle is to be a better marketing department than your competitors, and that's. I mean, there will be a recession, right? I mean, growth is pretty anemic here in Western Europe, but globally, actually, almost every single developed economy at the moment is growing.
Sometimes not by much.
Mind you, that's not a new story, right? Western
true.
Europe has been anemic for all of the century. But I won't blame marketers for that. We'll blame governments, I think, and regulation.
Well, that's true. But, if you look at CPG in particular, for example.
Yeah, we have the hangover from the inflationary period where...
It hasn't gone away in some...
but what has gone away is, first of all, people put prices up because their costs were going up, and in actual fact, private label had to sort of move first because they had the thinnest... and so a lot of national brands suddenly found they were blitzing their sales targets and everything was actually quite wonderful.
Right.
And then and they had consultants telling them it's okay, you've got pricing power. And then their volumes started to drop and they started to lose penetration. And so this is, we're well into that bit now, that shock of, things aren't easy now. When real household income goes down, that means they have less to spend. Yeah. And you've got sort of a two-speed thing where you've got sort of retired baby boomers who've been sitting on rising house prices and things, and they're still going off on their cruises, etc. But that's not...
In the States, you've got what's called the K-shaped economy, where you've got... let's say like 10% of consumers now represent 50% of customer spending. So you've got sort of a thin layer at the top that seems to be growing and spending, and then
a lot of the big branded goods companies, are selling to families and into households, and that's where the baby boomers can go off on their yachts and things. That doesn't help you selling window cleaner. If anything, your sales go down, and the consumers in the household. So, I mean, there are bright spots, of course, right? I mean, it makes it really hard if you're running a cafe or a restaurant, and so supermarket spending on food, I think, is up. Sort of COVID light.
God, I thought it escaped that. The Institute has warned of the danger of pulling back on advertising. So would that hold in this sort of scenario?
We yes and no.
Okay.
Right, because advertising doesn't jerk your sales up and down. Right? Its effects are spread very thinly in time.
Just a weak force kind of.
Well, it's not that a weak force. It's just that John Dole's 95.
Yes.
Well,
yes.
95.
Most people
exposures aren't going to show up in next week's sales because they're not even going to buy the category. But it will. It does show up. It keeps you up because it enhances the propensities going forward. But it's very thinly. So, weight tests and when academics have split control things and they know the households that get exposure, and if you double weight of advertising, pretty much nothing happens. And that's true if you half advertising. So if it
doesn't happen straight away,
no. And so our report on when brands go dark show for big established brands it takes quite a long time before the decline to start to cut in. So if you're worried about going broke, stop advertising. That's not a problem. What you can't do is pull back on your purchase availability, because, like, if a store halves its opening hours, it pretty much halves its sales, right? So that stuff you have to keep up. Now, here's the bad news, though, for people who think, in a recession or something, I'll just double up on my activations or my purchase availability stuff. No, that won't either, because, you should have optimized that. Right?
Yeah.
You should have, because you can see that showing up in your sales. So you should have optimized that for profitability. And so if someone says to you, if the CEO goes, well, increase that, you go, it will I can, and sales might go up, but profits will go down. And then your CEO will go, oh no, don't do that.
Don't do that.
Right. So what do we have as a lesson to weather the storm? Probably a big thing is keep calm and carry on. You can trim your advertising expenditure. You can, in the same way you might trim some of your R&D projects and things like that if you're worried about cash flow or going broke. But otherwise, the one thing we do know about recessions is they come.
They come and they go.
And they go.
Well, hopefully, as you say, look, Europe feels like it's been in one for a while.
It's just been anemic, hasn't it?
It's been anemic, exactly. What's your advice to marketers who are sort of struggling to make that case to the CEO or CFO in terms of metrics?
Well, stop shooting yourself in the foot of saying, if you give me more advertising budget, I will give you a lift in sales.
That's a credibility.
That's just stupid, issue. Right? I mean, that's like gambling addiction. Like it didn't pay off, but the next time I might win. That's amazingly stupid. So instead, give your CFO credible metrics that show you are doing a better job to build mental availability. Convincing your CFO that mental availability is a valuable asset is not, really, if you're a marketer and you can't sell that, then get out of the profession, right? CFOs do understand intangible assets.
And that, and I have to say, because we've had these conversations, that the 95-5 rule has been incredibly useful in starting that conversation. I know it was a specific piece of work done on a specific sort of set of...
Yeah, John Dawes just used it to try to explain to B2B people that
exactly.
the sort of negative binomial distribution. I was talking with Mark Ritson, and we were saying, wow, it works. Right?
Yeah, it works. But it's about the framing and the communication.
Yes.
Back to that. And it was... people can understand that in a way that other terms we use within our space seem harder to explain. They understand that most people actually, oh no, yeah, that's right, of course, because I'm not always in the market for lawnmowers.
So it starts you hopefully to the understanding that so I can't really use my sales next week to judge the advertising from last week. I mean, it's like, no, advertising's weird. I mean, it is a really weird thing. Like, a huge number of your ads reach people who've just bought. Oh, that doesn't sound very good. That was a bit, we missed them. That's stupid. Reaches people who aren't in the market yet. Well, that seems like an incredible waste, unless you want to grow your category. And it hits people who won't buy for maybe a year or two.
Yeah.
And you go, that's all good stuff.
And then the sort of, I guess the flip side of that is that the sales today are still being influenced by advertising.
Yes.
You may have run months or even years ago.
Yes. So it's a humbling thought, isn't it, for most CMOs to go, no, most of your sale today are
your predecessor.
Your predecessor.
That's right.
And their predecessor and their predecessor and their predecessor. And so that tells you that, so my job is to pass on a brand in good health and a marketing department that knows about effectiveness. If I can do that, I have succeeded. I want the person who takes over from me to say, wow, what a great thing I have inherited.
Yeah, I better not screw it up.
Yes, exactly. Yes, it has got that, isn't it? Like, the predecessors didn't screw it up, I better not do that either. Yes.
I like to spend a few minutes sort of talking about some specific areas of debate or discussion. And I've picked these areas because I think there are people that make assumptions about what the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute make. And what I'd love to do is just get your, hear it, if you'll excuse the phrase, from the horse's mouth.
No, sure.
And think what you actually do. You do think.
Okay.
So I've got a few of them, so let's just run through them
fire away.
bit by bit. So I guess one thing I've seen is an assumption that the sort of Ehrenberg-Bass thinking laws apply to big brands and sort of describe big brands and how big brands operate, but don't really explain how small brands get big. Do you have a view on how?
Yes, we've studied tiny brands deliberately because of that. But I did point out, but I guess everyone forgets it. I said at the start of how brands grow, of course I'm using famous brands here and big ones, because if I talk about some obscure Yugoslavian brand,
Yeah, well, nobody's
going to understand it.
Unless
Yeah.
they're in Yugoslavia.
So I for the negative binomial distribution, I deliberately chose Coca-Cola because I thought, well, that's the biggest sort of brand I can think of. And it's pretty amazing to think that you're a heavy Coke buyer if you buy like 3 cans a year. Wow.
Is there anything special about that sort of, is there anything that they should do differently to the way the big brands operate if you're a mid-sized brand looking to scale?
What we do notice is there are more tiny brands that have what we in the double jeopardy language we would say for that like 0.5% market share, too much of it is made up of penetration and not enough out of loyalty. They are sort of Double Jeopardy predicts that they will have very low penetration and slightly lower purchase frequency, but they tend to have more penetration than we think and not so much in any sort of loyalty metric. And this, we believe, is because they suffer from a lack of overlap of their mental and physical availability. And so what that means is the people who buy them, once, find it harder than they should to repeat purchase.
To buy again.
Yeah. It's like you go to a restaurant, you think the food's great, tell yourself you'll come back, and then you just forget about it because you get nothing reinforcing. You didn't see any advertising for it. You didn't, no one spoke about it or something.
So the answer to that is what?
Then you need to work to fix that overlap. Yeah. Also, I think a number of tiny brands get sort of serendipitous sales, more than you should normally.
Yeah.
Just some people bought them because they were in a rush and, it was on the shelf and they bought that one. And then they're not going to come and buy it again because if you ask them, what was that yogurt? They go, I think it was in a blue? No, white? I don't know.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. And so that is a particular thing for tiny brands, although most of them aren't like that. And what we do know is when they grow, they increase the size of their customer base.
Second thing I wanted to ask then is about the term brand and how you see that overlaps with mental availability. You talked about brand image earlier.
Oh, yeah.
So I'm just interested in, because I guess I don't want to go too much down a differentiation rabbit hole, but there is there's still a sense that people in the industry will argue that differentiation does in some cases matter, and you've been very clear that.
Well, sometimes there are some differentiated brands, yeah.
Give me an example of a brand you would see as differentiated then in that.
Aldi.
The supermarket, the retailer.
Yeah,
and that its differentiation is based on
low prices and massively reduced assortment because they don't carry national brands. Yeah. So you can't have 16 different types of chocolate biscuit brand because people can't navigate it, right? Because they don't know these brands. So you instead have one. That is differentiation. So that is a negative, actually. I mean, because you don't have the national brands, you have to have a smaller assortment, and because of that, you have to have lower prices. So it is differentiation, some positive and some negative. Lower prices, everyone loves lower prices.
Is there a positive differentiation you can think of? I mean, would something like Apple count, or is that...
No, well, lots
or a luxury. I mean, luxury is sort of a weird category anyway, I suppose, but...
No, luxury. Well, there's differentiations everywhere as far as not what we call brand differentiation, but situational differentiation, right? Like, you might look at Chanel's dresses this year and go, wow, that's amazing. I love them, and I don't like the Dior ones. And next year, vice versa. But, that stuff comes and goes. But as far as luxury brands have very little differentiation.
Between
right. Like if you say, do you like the dress? Yeah, it's great. It's Chanel, great. Oh no, sorry, it's Dior. Oh, great. Oh no, sorry, it's Versace. Oh, great. People don't care.
So differentiated brands exist, but it's very difficult to do.
Yeah, but the good news is you don't have to worry. Like multi-billion-dollar brands, the last 100 years aren't terribly differentiated. But sometimes it'll stand out to you, like, wow, our brand really is, and then you make strategic decisions to either lean into that or fix it. Sometimes it's something you have to fix. It's a great case study of, I think it's Goya Foods in the US. So they were very seen as it was Mexican food, right? And then they started to realize that, we should go broader.
Yeah.
We should say to someone, it's
sometimes that it can be a recipe for being niche.
What's one you have in the UK? Corn.
Corn,
and they lend into it's just protein, not it's like if we want to just sell to the vegans in the country, we're going to stay very small.
Yeah. We've seen that in a few cases in the UK.
Yeah. But there's real differentiation. So corn mince is not.
It's not the same.
It's not actually made from cows. So.
I guess. But in that sense, I guess the differentiation is about the product itself. And
and most differentiation. Actually, the biggest driver of differentiation is typically location.
Yeah. Yes, of course. Yes.
Yeah. And then it's big stuff like price and product features and things. So don't, this idea that's spun so much at places like Cannes that you can do cunning advertising that'll make people see your brand as different.
Not convinced. Okay.
And you got to, don't let that distract you from the battle to build mental availability.
Well, let's talk about the link then with, or no, lack of link with pricing, because that's been a big theme in the last couple of years of. There are industry bodies that will argue that brand is connected with pricing power, which is so advertising can affect brand, which can affect pricing power.
Yeah, so normal, and what people are often confusing is premium brands from brand elasticity, saying that brand sells at a higher price. Yes, it's a premium brand. That's not the same as elasticity, which is. Pricing power is supposed to be about the idea that you lift price and your volume doesn't
move or doesn't drop.
It's hard to find any brands in the world that doesn't happen to. So what can you use advertise? If you increase, here's hopefully Byron Sharp quote. If you want to increase your price without losing lots of volume, then increase your mental and physical availability or improve your product quality. Ideally do all of those things.
Yeah.
But if you think, oh no, that all sounds like hard work, I just want to raise my price, fine, you'll lose volume.
And so you mentioned brand image earlier. Let's just clear that bit off. Brand image, let's be very clear on this because I think I know, but I'd like to hear it from you.
Yeah, sure.
How does brand image differ from mental availability?
Okay, mental availability is coming to mind that you get noticed on shelf or you are seen on screen, or it's the propensity that brand actually gets some consideration, chance to be bought.
In the right situations,
yeah. Well, whenever someone can buy.
Yes.
Whereas brand image cuts in at that point. You mental availability is one of the options, and it's then that you go, what does that brand, so you might go,
represents, or
oh no, that one's low quality, or and that's where it has so it can only work at there. And we looked at brand purpose as an aspect of brand image, and what we found is that the problem is it hardly ever does come to mind. So most people just don't link it, so it can't be working. Brand, coming to mind, being mentally available is essential, and then you want a brand image that makes you acceptable.
So it's plays a role, but it's less important than the mental availability.
It has to be. But we're wondering, are there... So Norm de Grieve, the current CMO of General Motors, he's like, but, there must be, there are brands that, people would be proud to own, and then maybe brands that they wouldn't want to own, and so that might stop them, reason not to buy. And I can imagine that for cars. So I'm really interested to research that, which we are. Because the weird thing is I can actually also think of a completely opposite argument, which is, people do hold these different images of cars, but it doesn't seem to stop them buying a lot of very boring cars, and companies like Toyota slowly becoming the biggest car company in the world.
Yeah.
Most people buy grey, black, practical cars, and we go, oh, what about when the Chinese cars come in? People won't want to buy a Chinese car.
Yeah, funny.
Yeah, they say they don't, but then they do.
What about markets or categories experiencing kind of rapid growth or disruption? So we've got things like, I guess, like AI as a market
Yes,
is growing
yes.
very quickly at the moment.
Jenny Romanick's done some really quite cool stuff on that, of showing about the mental availability of the different, big chat bots and how they compete.
And
it's a battle of brands there.
And so the laws apply in those markets just as much.
Yes, they do. Yeah.
Because I guess one challenge to the Institute's thinking has been from people who say, well, it's just about stable markets. Is that the laws only are really built on stable markets and.
There's a stupid thing about people who don't understand that the NBD-Dirichlet, which is particularly a mathematical model that predicts the laws. And it just predicts the laws. It isn't the laws themselves. It has certain assumptions, and one is that it's for stationary markets, that people's loyalties, their propensities are fixed. Yeah. And we know that's not true, and that they're not absolutely fixed. And we know that in any market there has to be some brands that are growing and some declining. But the amazing thing is, but if you look in a time period like a year or something, that doesn't really shake up the laws are so big, the patterns are so big that it doesn't shake it up. And so that's an interesting empirical thing. But some people think it's some sort of gotcha. They're like, I've just read it's a stationary model. Gotcha.
Right.
Well, duh.
It's
not. So no, the amazing thing is, and so you could say that the laws, like double jeopardy law, doesn't say anything about growth, but it does. It says if I'm to double my market share, my penetration has to near double. It has to, and that's telling me a lot about growth.
Yeah, even in a market that is itself growing, and presumably in those sorts of markets. Like the opportunity where you have new people coming in to buy.
All markets have some dynamism,
Yeah, that's true. There's always people cycling in and out of a market. So the job is still getting them to consider you in the relevant moment.
Magda and her colleagues, work on categories. It's fascinating. The same thing, that categories grow like brands. You must increase your penetration. Yeah. Oh well, sorry, I don't say must. I mean, they also can grow through premiumization.
Look, we're nearly out of time, so I guess what I'd love to know is what you and the Institute are looking at kind of next. What are you researching? I know you've got like lots of researchers doing lots of things, but what are you most excited about researching or finding out next?
I don't know. I like the thing that we're looking at, brand image, because to me that's an old area. I did my master's on that, and so it's sort of returning to that sort of home. I had a bit of trouble convincing some others that we should, because they're like, okay, but every time I go and look at it, I look at some data and I look at things, I keep coming back to its mental and physical availability, and this brand image must be so tiny. And I don't want to research something so tiny. But I think it behooves us to go and look, and there might be some places where it's really important. So I think that's exciting. But I also have the job as director of where's the future going for the Ehrenberg-Bass Institute, and I think that's quite exciting. I think we are building AI agents that people will be able to plug into their AI. Because every company's going to want, as part of their competitive advantage, they're going to be building AI to help them do things like plan media, plan portfolios, do brand planning. And I think they will want to have Ehrenberg-Bass as part of that, so it can sense check and make sure that some of the other AI agents don't, recommend a plain design that breaks the laws of physics.
I guess so. Final question is, I've got you. This has been a lovely chat.
Thank you.
But you're known for having a very, let's say, assertive personality on social media. So when I've told people I'm interviewing you, they've said, why is he so hard on people on social media? What's your sort of view on how you use social media?
It's social media. I'm not going to write an article, and sometimes people come back and they go like, "Can I please have reference on that? And can I do that?" And I'm like, and to their credit, other people sometimes chip in and go, "I don't think it's his job to do all your homework for you." So I tend to chip in when someone says something outrageously wrong, And that's my job. I mean, academics, our first allegiance is to the truth. And so,
academics can be quite hard on each other as
well.
yeah.
There's an old joke about why are the fights so vicious in academia, because the stakes are so small. No, but yeah, I chip in when someone says something like, I don't know, academics such and such, I point out when research is wrong, or because I feel someone's putting something out into the public domain, they're trying to influence people. It's very important that someone gets in there and fact checks early. Marketing runs, we aren't like pharmaceutical companies have to go through all this review. They're not allowed to put a drug on the market anymore. They used to. That hasn't had some checking and things. But in marketing, people put out research all the time. Guess what? New research from the Radio Association that says, guess what? Everyone should be spending more on radio.
Yes.
I
think for our listeners, the air quotes you just put around the word research are worth highlighting.
Yeah, it's a lot of advertorials. And look, I'm not going to knock research just because someone has an interest in it, because I still want to, but when I see they've got an interest in it, the method is hopeless or it's totally black box and things, I feel I do have a duty, because unfortunately lots of marketers aren't trained to detect bullshit. And so I need to say, ignore that.
Okay.
Now, people don't like that.
No, they definitely don't. I know that. I know that much. But
Well, no one likes putting their assignment in and getting a fail grade. No.
Fair enough. But okay. Look, Byron, it's been an absolute pleasure having you on the WARC podcast. Thank you so much for your time.
Thank you.
That's all we've got time for today. A big thank you to Byron for joining us here on the WARC podcast. If you like what you heard, please do follow us on your podcasting platform of choice. And if you really liked it, please do leave us a review. Until next time, thanks for listening.